In the top secret building, there's a top secret room, which has an even more top secret smaller room, and it's here that we see JFK. And it's here that there are a few interesting details that could easily be missed. What's up everyone and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to be going over a level in the Black Ops campaign with no gunfights, but it's still probably the most memorable, which is the level USDD. Now just a quick recap of what's happened so far. Alex Mason is being interrogated by his very own CIA handler, Agent Hudson, who's trying to figure out what the numbers mean, where the broadcast is coming from, and how to stop Nikita Dragovich from his plan to unleash Nova 6 in the United States. Alex starts his story in Cuba in 1961 during the Bay of Pigs invasion, where he attempted to assassinate Fidel Castro, but it turns out it was just a body double, and during the escape he gets captured. He's sent to a gulag in Russia in a town called Vorkuta, and it's there that Mason is brainwashed and he comes into contact with Viktor Reznov, who is actually able to partially hijack the brainwashing to make one of Mason's main objectives to take out Dragovich, Steiner, the scientist who created Nova 6 gas, and Kravchenko, who's Dragovich's right-hand man. All because these three are responsible for Reznov's imprisonment and the death of Reznov's partner in crime, Dmitry Petrenko. Reznov helps Mason escape Vorkuta and stays behind, and Mason makes it back to the US and gets cleared for duty.
It's official, boys, I'm back!
And so with that, this is how the mission starts.
After your escape, you were assigned to Jason Hudson at the CIA.
Yeah, I heard that this Jason Hudson that you were assigned to is probably the best handler you ever had, right?
Now it's kind of ironic that Hudson then asks this.
How could he trust you when he knew that Viktor Reznov helped you break out of Vorkuta? Viktor Reznov was a communist. How did the CIA know you weren't compromised?
Because, spoiler alert for Black Ops 2, but Hudson ends up being compromised himself. Not because he's really a Soviet spy, but because Raul Menendez kidnapped Mason's son David and threatened his life if Hudson didn't lure Mason and Woods into a trap. Stay tuned for a video on that in the future. But while we're talking about Hudson, you can't tell right now, but the voice actor is Ed Harris, who's in a ton of movies, and he usually plays someone in the military or an authority figure. He's also in the movie Enemy at the Gates, which is the mission that Vendetta in World at War took a lot of inspiration from. Although in Black Ops 2, Hudson is actually voiced by Michael Keaton.
I'm Batman.
Now, this mission, USDD, is a level where there's no action, but it serves to really just tell the story, and it's similar to the mission in Modern Warfare after the bomb goes off, where you just wander around until... Now you start out in the interrogation with Hudson asking about how the CIA could trust Mason even though he became friends with Reznov, who is a communist. He also asks Mason about how the government wanted Mason to take out Dragovich, but...
There were others. Others I was supposed to kill.
We will soon find out who those other targets were in the next mission, but during this scene, Mason arrives just outside the Pentagon with Hudson. Once you're in the limo, you're greeted by Secretary Robert McNamara, who is a real person that served as Secretary of Defense under JFK and LBJ. The reason why this level is named USDD is because it stands for United States Department of Defense, and so it would make sense that the Secretary of Defense would be in this game. What you may not have known is that Robert's middle name is Strange. Like, his middle name is Strange. Now trust me, these two aren't related. But he talks about Nikita Dragovich, and Mason plays things very close to the chest.
When do I kill him?
Or not. Now this general here isn't really important. His name is General Thomas, and all he does is just show how important the mission is. You then make your way over to the Pentagon, and I remember playing this game for the first time and thinking that this campaign was way different than any of the other ones that had come before it. This cutscene felt much more different than you would see in Call of Duties up to this point. As you're walking into the Pentagon, this woman will stare at you. She doesn't have a name or backstory, but she won't break eye contact with you, even if you stare right at her, which is a total alpha move. As you continue, you start to hear the numbers and the pull to carry out your secret mission. Now you don't really have any control here, so you just keep moving along, and so you can't really see who or what these paintings are of. But if you play 5 in Zombies, you'll be able to come back here to the same area of the Pentagon where you can see distinguished heroes on the wall, and one of them is Roebuck from World at War. And there are paintings of the Battle of Pillaloo and Midway, which were both battles that you fight in World at War. On that same wall, you have Major John Plaster, who's a legendary sniper that co-founded the National Guard Sniper School. He served 3 tours in Vietnam, with his first being in 1968, and so he didn't have any involvement in Operation Chopper, which Operation Chopper did take place in 1962, and it was when the US, along with allied South Vietnamese paratroopers, were airlifted into enemy territory by over 30 Piasecki H-21 helicopters. It was a successful mission and was the start of the heavy use of helicopters for combat. It's interesting because in a way it's kind of similar to the Bay of Pigs invasion, where the US was primarily responsible for air support, while local resistance forces were on the ground. But unlike the Bay of Pigs, Operation Chopper didn't end up in a complete disaster. Up next is Eric Elhaney, who was a founding member of the Delta Force, but interestingly enough, he was born in 1952, and so he would have been 7 years old in 1959. Hank Kiersey is another veteran who didn't serve during this time period, but he was a consultant for this game, and when asked about his role in the development of this game, he said,
"My job since the very first video game was to take a look at what the developers were doing and ensure that from the point of view of a guy that's been on the ground as an infantryman, a paratroop ranger, that the weapons are right, the dialogue between the soldiers is correct, the radio calling procedures for bringing in close air support aircraft, the use of tanks with infantry, these kind of things are all pretty much as they should be in the course of the game."
Now you can also see his portrait in Nuketown as well. Once the elevator doors open, you get to see the Nerve Center, which is a real part of the Pentagon, and this is what it really looks like. As you can see, it actually resembles the first room that you start out in 5 instead of what we see here. Now this room looks pretty cool and it feels very Cold War-esque. As you continue, you see this DEFCON sign on the wall, and DEFCON stands for Defense Readiness Condition. There are 5 DEFCON levels, with 5 being the lowest readiness state, and 1 is obviously the highest. The United States has never officially been at DEFCON 1. The highest level is 2, which was set during the Cuban Missile Crisis. As we can see here, they are at DEFCON 3, which is to have the Air Force ready to mobilize in under 15 minutes. As the 3 characters continue to the Nerve Center, Mason is starting to break down a little bit. He keeps repeating the steps from the Vorkuta escape.
Ascend from darkness. Step 3. Rain fire.
Which makes me think that Reznov may have included the steps in the brainwashing, because during that last level, Mason was usually the one to say which step they were on.
Step 3! Rain fire! See homeless!
And the escape was very chaotic, and for Reznov it would have been nice to basically have a robot tell you what steps they were on. But this is where it gets interesting. In the top secret building, there's a top secret room, which has an even more top secret, littler room, and it's here that we see JFK. Now the only other times that we've seen presidents in the game were also during the Black Ops series, where in Black Ops Cold War, you'd meet President Reagan, and in Black Ops 6, you get a little sneak peek of President Bill Clinton. Now here's how the scene plays out.
Mr. President?
Agent Mason,
Great honor, Mr. President.
sit. We are in grave danger from the communists. Our freedom, our very way of life is at risk. Dragovich. I'm told that you are the very best that we have. Anywhere. You will need to be. Mr. Mason, take care of it.
So there are a couple of important things to note here. As you can see, there's a portrait of Abraham Lincoln here, who was also assassinated. You probably have heard about some of the interesting coincidences and things in common that these two have. Both the names Lincoln and Kennedy have 7 letters. John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald both have 15 letters in their names. Both were elected president in the 60th year of the century, 1860 for Lincoln and 1960 for Kennedy. Both of their successors were named Johnson. Both were shot on a Friday. And both assassins were killed before they could stand trial.
I am going to end this once and for all.
You can't. He must stand trial.
He's too dangerous to be left alive.
I'm too weak. Don't kill me.
Now, you can find coincidences or connections between many things, but with both presidents being the 2 most famous presidents to be assassinated, this portrait does not feel out of place. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind here. Mason is recounting events years after the assassination, And the meeting in this level occurs just under 2 weeks before the assassination. As JFK approaches you, the monitors behind him will show different images and videos, and so I have different freeze frame shots of what these monitors are actually showing as they change. Mason would actually know about the things that are happening in these monitors because, again, he's recounting events after the assassination. So on the screens behind the president, the first image that we see are from his early political career. At the top left, we have the president with his brother Robert F. Kennedy, who was the Attorney General and father of Robert Kennedy Jr., who's currently serving as the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Do you even lift, bro?
Robert Kennedy was also assassinated after JFK in 1968. The other images on the left are from him campaigning, and the image directly behind his head is of his wife Jackie. Towards the right, we have an image of him with Lyndon B. Johnson, who is his vice president and successor after the assassination. After the next shift, we see JFK again with Robert and the other brother Edward, or Ted Kennedy, who was serving as senator when this picture was taken, and the picture itself was taken just outside the Oval Office. He actually lived until 2009 and passed away from a brain tumor. There are also more images of speeches after he became president. Towards the right, there's an image of him and Jackie together, and at the bottom right we see this image, which is of him and Secretary McNamara, and a third party that gets cut out on the actual monitor, but this third party is Dean Rusk, who is the Secretary of State. Then once again things shift, and we see an image of Lee Harvey Oswald, the man that assassinated Kennedy. After the next change, we also see Jack Ruby, who was a nightclub owner that assassinated Oswald before he could stand trial.
He's too dangerous to be left alive.
This is the building that Oswald shot from, which is the Texas School Depository. At the bottom right, this is an image of Jack Ruby pulling a gun on Oswald, which I had no idea they even had a picture of this. The last set of images that we have are from the funeral, which this one right here is of his family. You can actually see this one in color. These ones right here are of the honor guard folding a flag at his funeral. Now Mason has a hallucination, and it's implied that he was brainwashed to take President Kennedy out, and especially as you get towards the end of the campaign, that idea is also brought up again.
Tried to turn me against my own. Tried to make me kill my own president.
Tried?
Now this is the very last thing that Dragovich ever says.
Tried?
He obviously wasn't part of the CIA, but many have said that the CIA was involved in Kennedy's death, and that after the Bay of Pigs invasion, Kennedy wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the winds, because he believed that the CIA was primarily responsible for the failure of the Bay of Pigs invasion. Now with what Dragovich said and this cutscene at the very end of the game, it really makes you take a step back and think.
Ascension.
In a future video, I'll go into more depth about this here, but with the end of the conversation between Mason and Kennedy, this level ends right here. In the next video, we'll go over an operation to rip the heart out of the Soviet space program and their long-range missile program. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to take out that like and subscribe button.